Hi there, and welcome to this video. In this video, we will explore how we can create data using DBIx. Let's get started. There are three specific methods we can call on our result set to create data, and these are create, find or create, and update or create. Let's start with the basic one, which is create. How you can invoke create is that you can access your result set, specific one in this case, which let's say we want to create a new user, and we can call the create method on it. And what we provide for the create method is a hashref. And this hashref is going to contain keys as the column names in the database, and the values is going to be the data we want to insert in the rows. So in this example, for our user, we have two columns. One is the ID, primary key, so we don't really need to insert data for that. It's going to be auto-incremented. And then we have a username. So basically, we just really want to provide one key and value pairs here. So we can say username. And let's say we want to create a username that says new user. All right. To note here, what we get back from create method is going to be the result of the instance that we are creating. In this case, is going to be the user result. And we can assign it to a variable, in this case, what I'm doing, called user. And to make sure that everything's okay, we can simply print out, let's say, user and ID. All right, if we save the script, and let's run this now with dbic underscore trace equals 1 Perl include our libraries and the script file, we're going to see that the SQL that we're running is insert into new user with a username that has a placeholder and the value is new user. So that looks good. And the ID we're getting back is 5. And if we refresh the page to see the new data, we're going to see our new user with ID 5. And you might be wondering why the next ID is 5 instead of 3. It's just because I created some data before and deleted it. So those IDs were already reserved. Right, so this is the simple form of how you can create data. Again, you supply key, that is going to be the column name of the database, and then the value, which is going to be inserted into the database, and you're getting back user. Now the next method I want us to look at is called find or create. And as the name implies, it does exactly that. It's either going to find a record if it already exists based on unique key, or it's going to create a new record. So before we proceed, I would like us to actually create a new column in this user table. And how we can do that, we can say alter table user add column, and we can call this type, and we can define this as a varchar 50 characters, not null, and we can say that default, for example, is going to be client. Right, so if we run this, if we check the user table now, click OK for the message, we're going to see that we now have a new column, which is type client. Now, of course, as we know, we need to regenerate our schemas, and we can do this through the dump script. So Perl dump.pl, we regenerated our schemas, and if we just check these, so schema, my app, and result, and user, we should see the type now, which is going to be just under username right here. So this is the new column we created. Right, so instead of calling create, we can say we want to either find an entry or we want to create it. Now if we run this, let's see what happens. Oops, so not regenerating the schemas, but rerunning the script. So we can see here that instead of creating a new record, the first thing that was done, we called the select statement, and we try to find an entry for the username with the value new user. And since we got something back based on this unique constraint, the DBIx didn't call the insert SQL. For example, if I would replace the username with new user 2 and rerun this, we're going to see that now, since we don't have an entry with a new user 2, we ran the select statement first, no results were found behind the scenes in the DBIx, and afterwards an insert statement was run, and that created new user with user ID 6. And if we check the database, refresh the page, here we can see that now we have 4 users altogether. And if I just rerun this again, the same is going to happen. We check if new user 2 exists. Yes, it does, and we just got back new user 6. Now what would happen if we try to just call the create command with username new user 2, and we already have a new user with a unique constraint on the username? We're going to see an error. And if you look at the top, we're going to see the error is duplicate entry, new user already exists for the unique key. So the find or create method is a neat way where you don't know if the data already exists, and if it does, you just want to retrieve it, and if not, you want to create it. To note here, you can actually provide additional second argument to this method, and similar to what we saw with single method when we're selecting data, you can provide a key. Now that key is going to reference which unique constraint we want to use when we're calling the find or create method. Now the unique constraint that we have on this table, if you look at the SQL that we ran to create the data, is called unique user username. So if you copy this and just paste this here, and save that, rerun the script, we're going to see that we just ran the select statement, entry exists, and we just got back the instance of user result. Right, so the final method I would like us to look at is called update or create. And the principle is pretty much the same as with find or create. So instead of finding or creating, when you call the update or create, the DBIx is going to check if an entry already exists behind the scenes. And if it does, it's going to update existing entry. And if it doesn't, it's just going to create a new one. And this is why we created this extra column. Because now, let's say that for a specific user with a unique username, we would like to update the type of that entry. So let's say instead of the user being a client, we can say this user is admin. Now, if we go back to the script and say for this username that we just created, new user 2, if this exists, we would like to update the type to admin. And again, the second key is optional because DBIx is going to be smart enough to figure out which is the unique constraint. So if we save the script now and run it, what we're going to see that we are, first of all, again, we're selecting from user where username equals to. We got back an entry for that user, and instead of creating it, we just call the update user and we're setting the type to admin. If you refresh the database, we're going to see that now our new user 2 has a type of admin. If you go back to the script and let's say that we would like to create a new user 3, save this, run the script, what we're going to see, again, we're running select statement for new user 3. DBIx is not getting back a result for that user with that unique username. And now, instead of running update, it's running insert. So it's inserting a new entry into user table with two fields, which is going to be type and username with values admin and new user 3. And the ID that we're getting back for the new primary key is 8. And if we check the database, refresh that, we're going to see our new user, which is set to type admin as well. Alright, so that's it for this video. We explore how we can create data in various ways. Specifically, how we can create basic data if we don't want to check for if the entry already exists. And we also looked at how we can create or either update the data. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you at the next one.